Hi, welcome back to RPMBassy. This is all part of our top 20 favourite albums. At the moment we're at number 14, and as before, check out the previous. So, for my number 14, this was quite a hard choice because I like so many of their albums, but I chose this one instead, and it's The Cure, Pornography. This album came out in 1982. And the single that came out just before this was Charlotte Sometime, so it was just a single only release. That wasn't on the album. For back then, that was quite unknown to release singles and not have them on the album, just release a brand new album. So this is recorded with a new producer, Phil Thornley, and was recorded at Rack Studios in 1982. This is quite a dark album. When they were recording this, there was a lot of LSD around. And also Robert Smith was highly depressed recording this album, and it comes across on a lot of these tracks as well. After this was recorded, a couple of the guys left the band, and obviously The Cure changed the sound to a lot poppier sound. I think after this there was things like Love Cats and The Walk, so quite a poppier sound. But this album is a really dark album. So if you know Charlotte Sometimes, that kind of sets the whole feel of this album. And again, obviously, the songwriting, the musicology with it is very kind of depressive, very dark. Subject matter is quite dark as well. My favourite track on this album is The Hanging Gardens. Like lyrically, Robert Smith sounds like he's in pain mentally, writing, singing that song. And I think it comes across with that. And the opener for this is 100 Years. Again, sets the whole feel of the whole album. But the drums in it, I think, are just great. They did experiment with a few kind of synths in there, but not so much. It's more about the guitar and the bass, the beats. So for me, this is a great album, a dark album. Don't listen to this if you're feeling down. Listen to it as a Cure fan. And to me, one of the best albums that they've put out. I love it. And what I've heard through the grapevine, the new stuff that's coming out, this being 2022, is going to go back to this kind of vibe, and also a bit like Disintegration, that kind of vibe, which I'm really happy about because I wasn't a big fan of the poppy stuff, but this stuff I love. And that is my number 14, The Cure, Pornography. Over to Mark.
It's always a bit of a difficult one when you get albums like that. Like, they're rather selfishly, I think, when frontmen are depressed is kind of when you get some of their best work.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So
it's Robert a shame Smith. That things like that have to be the case for some of that kind of work to come out. But the work that comes out from it is usually really, really stellar, and it always seems a lot more open and real.
I suppose as well, you can tell how Robert Smith is feeling depending on what vibe of the album is. You had this one, and then it was all poppy, and then you had Disintegration, which is to me, was really dark. And then he went on to the Wish album after that, which is really kind of poppy. So I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do for the next one.
Definitely,
which hopefully should be out soon.
So for my next one, I've gone for an EP rather than an album. This is the Temjin EP by Rezo. So Rezo is a dubstep artist based out of London. Alex Melia, his name is, I believe. So this is a 2009 release. And I think especially from that era, especially like dubstep is kind of a dirty word with the kind of artists that were coming out at the time. And, I've personally not got a horse in the race one way or another. I'll quite happily listen to anything. But obviously at that time you kind of had the sort of bro step kind of uprising where it was a lot more... it was almost like gamer music, I guess.
Yeah.
But, that is what it is. And there's a lot of stuff in that I really, really enjoy. But this is kind of like actual dubstep, really, really techy, really very much like a producer's album. If you make music yourself, this is the kind of like dubstep that I think really shines. You can tell that there's a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of work gone into this to really sort of dig down into the real intricate passages of the music. Just the drums especially, the way he sort of puts drums together. He is a drummer, like an actual trained drummer, for a start, but the way that he puts stuff together it just blows my mind. Like some of his newer stuff as well. You know, he's doing things with like the Amen break, which, you know, lesser people wouldn't be able to even come close to. It's such a, at this point, such a overused sample, and he's still able to make it sound fresh.
Maybe what we'll do is a future top 5 tracks using the aim and break.
That would be a really good one. Yeah,
that'd be a good idea.
But this one, you know, this is very much dubstep versus drum and bass, and the opening track, Otacon, it's so in your face, it's so aggressive, it's so heavy for electronic music. And I think in terms of actual, you know, what I suppose a lot of people would call like true dubstep, that's like a really, really good example of like the cream of the crop, well produced electronic music with that really techie edge. And a lot of his album covers and things like that, they use a lot of this kind of like mecha artwork, and a lot of his stuff really does sound that way. It's got such a mechanical feel to it without being soulless, you know, like a lot of stuff that you could hear from artists where they're doing everything on the grid, and you just think, well, you know, it's bad electronic music. But this, like, he takes it beyond anything like that and just really keeps a lot of soul in it while it's still being very meticulous.
Who else would you say, if you would play Rezo, who else would you play alongside that? What other artists? Because when you talk about dubstep, I'm automatically thinking back to Casper, all that kind of stuff. His stuff is insane.
Nowadays, to be honest, I would probably say a lot of the Hospital Records artists. You know, he did a lot of stuff with Hospital Records, and obviously they're a lot more like liquid drum and bass and things like that. But there are plenty of artists on there that have done some really, really, you know, intricate and inspiring things. Royalston is a great artist who, again, has done a lot of those kind of tracks where the drums are the focal point, but they don't overtake the song, but they're the reason you listen to it. A track on his 2017 album, the track's called I'll Keep It Warm, and that's got this like super weird ambient like build up, and then just such a weird break that just repeats throughout the whole song. And I think that kind of stuff is like, if you enjoy this, that's a really good step to take. And I think as well, not necessarily, you know, not a dubstep album, but the artist Ski Mask, he's got a track called Session Ad, which is very much techno, but the way that song is built, I can sort of see where the production kind of techniques really have an overlap. That kind of building up of drums and adding intricacies to kind of fill in. It's almost like making sure there's no empty space without crowding the mix. And yeah, something like that. It's like I said, it's a producer's album. Really, you can really appreciate the work that's gone into it.
I mean, I'd say when it comes to drum and bass producers, the drum and bass producers are insane when it comes to their beats and their intricacies when it comes to the beats. And a lot of them are kind of moved across to the dubstep. And dubstep is about they're just weird rhythms and stuff. And I think the drum and bass producers, I don't think anyone can come near them when it comes to their drum programming. Yeah. So yeah, I'm intrigued to find, because I did like a lot of the older kind of dubstep. And you're right, when it went into kind of the bro steps, when I kind of start to lose it, it's like not quite sure what this is. But yeah, cool. That's a good one. So thank you very much, and join us for the next one, which is going to be our number 13. And this is RPMBassy. See you in a minute.